Assalamu alaikum. Hi, how is everybody? This is my next lesson at Universal Finance Academy. My name is Asma Popal, and today I'll have a special guest, Brenda Hernandez.
Hello.
Again, my email is universalfinanceacademy@gmail.com, and that's spelled universalfinanceacademy@gmail.com. And again, this is my Facebook page, Universal Finance Academy. You can contact me at either one in any language, and I will be able to help you with any questions that you may have about finances. So today we're gonna talk with Brenda about her life, her past education, and her future education and career goals, so we can learn a little bit more about what it takes to go into the culinary arts, specifically if you wanted to go into pastry school. Hi, how are you today, Brenda?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for being on here. Yeah, go ahead and tell me a little bit about yourself.
So, I was born in Mexico, but my parents brought me here about when I was 11 years old. I started the University of Utah back in 2018, I believe, and I just graduated this past May. I graduated with a business degree in management, and right now I decided to go into culinary school. I'll be visiting I'll be going to Colorado to the Escoffier School of Culinary Arts, and I'll be starting on the end of this month.
Okay, awesome, perfect. So yeah, as Brenda said, she is currently going to the University of Utah, the same university that I am attending, and will almost graduate next semester as well. And she decided to study in the Bachelors of Science in Business Management. Can you tell me kind of why you decided to study in that major?
When I first started school, I started back in SLIC to take the basic courses, such as math, English, science, and all those prerequisite classes. But since I wasn't sure,
It's Solid Community
Solid
College,
Community
right?
College,
So it's
yes.
kind of like the beginner level before you go to university.
Yes, I actually got an associate's degree in there,
Okay.
business administration.
Oh, business administration. Okay.
Yes, and it's a cheaper way to go into a university when you're not sure what exactly you want to do. So as I think it was on my second semester when I decided to fully go into business. So I started taking all the accounting, all the finance classes, all the communication classes that were required for me to get my degree in Salt Lake Community College and to transfer them to the University of Utah. And that way, when I got here in 2018, I was done with half of my classes and I was just ready to take all the upper division classes that the school required for me to get a bachelor's degree.
Okay, awesome. So basically, going to community college allowed you to save money and gave you time to prepare, finishing your general education and figuring out what major you wanted to be in the future.
Yes, that's pretty much right. Also, in most community colleges, they offer a lot of scholarships, such as for books or classes or any like little things like that. And I got a lot of scholarships back in Salt Lake Community College, and that really one scholarship will cover at least half of my semester, and the semesters at most were $2,000. That was for classes each semester.
So a lot. And then I know now that you've graduated with your bachelor's degree in business, you want to go into culinary school. Yeah, let me know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so at Escoffier's, they have two different pastry programs. One where they focus on business and on the pastry level, and then the other one where they just focus on your pastry skills.
Okay.
Since I already have the business degree they
Your background is already in business.
yeah, so they told me this would not help you because you pretty much know more than most of our graduates would know.
Yeah.
So it's better for you to just focus on your pastry skills, and that saved about $10,000.
Oh, really? $10,000. That's impressive. Yeah, so a lot of people nowadays are looking to go beyond just a bachelor's degree You know, being part of society nowadays, you're expected to have at least a master's or a second degree of some sort, or a technical degree, or even a PhD if you want to get into more highly complex areas or into career paths that pay you more or have more, you know, complexity within the type of job frame, right? So, you know, Brenda realized that if she wanted to become, you know, someone who was financially capable of running her own pastry business, hopefully one day, inshallah, or working in a big pastry place, she would need to, you know how to manage her finances, to know background, some kind of background in business, which is why she went into her bachelor's. And then from there on, she can go into a specialized program, such as the culinary school, and gain the skills that she needs to further her cooking skills, her pastry skills, to have a successful business, both financially as well as in regards to how she's creating her products and providing services to people. So go ahead and tell me a little bit about the school, you know, why you chose that school specifically, where it's located, the pricing, etc.
So Scoffier School has two different locations, one in Boulder, Colorado, and the other one in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
The one in Austin, Texas is the one that offers the degree with the business background,
Okay.
and then the Colorado one only offers the pastry skills diploma. So technically I'll be just getting diploma because I already have the business background. And I decided to go into Scoffier School because for really just three reasons. In the United States, there's not a lot of culinary schools. There is one in California, which is the International Institute of Culinary Education. There's another one in New York, and Escoffier. So technically, there's three schools in all the 50 states, and Escoffier is one of the cheapest one, but also it's one that has been around in the country for a really, really long time. So they already have that experience of how to help students get involved into the real world of culinary arts. And also, I felt that when I called them to ask about information, I felt it was more personal. They actually care about me and hearing all my needs and all my concerns. They were the first ones to reach out to me after looking up at all the three different schools. And even though the other schools did reach out to me, it didn't feel like they wanted me to be in it. They just like wanted me to sell me something. As Scoffiers felt like they made me feel like I was important to them, and they made me feel like this is the kind of environment that I want to be in and learn from.
Yeah.
Also, Auguste Escoffier is, or was, sorry, a really famous French chef, and he actually is the one who started the school.
Okay, yeah, those are some really amazing reasons. I think we all should focus on the fact that when we're trying to decide where to go to school, especially university or to get our PhD or master's or a specialty, go into specialty program like Brenda's going into, we need to focus on the most important things. So Brenda focused on the most important three things to her, you know, tuition, you know, what type of atmosphere the school gave her, if it was a school that was just there to make money, or if there was a school that was actually there to help her and to help her grow and become someone successful within that type of skill set. In this case, you know, culinary arts skills. And the third one, you know, being just general proximity, right? You know, we are here in the US and we only have so many places that we can travel to, especially now with COVID. You know, it'd be difficult to travel internationally at the moment. So, you know, finding somewhere close to home that she could easily travel to by car or airplane, for instance, and that is, you know, reasonable within its pricing and allows her to, you know, become more, you know, proficient in what the area she wants to go into are all important. And I think that's what everyone needs to do, is focus on the background and focus on the things that are most important to you before you decide to, you know, spend a lot of money and travel to another school and then it doesn't happen to be the place that, you know, fits you best.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so I know, you know, you kind of talked about where it is. So it's in Boulder, Colorado, so it's a state away from us. You know, moving must be something that you were you expecting that you were going to move out of state? And if so, how did you plan for it?
So I did know I had to move out of state because we don't have any schools in here. And the way I'm gonna do it is, so first of all, I talked to the school about tuition because it is something important that I wanted to touch on with them, and they were very, very, very flexible about it. So you can either pay it all on the day before the semester starts, but since it's a private school, it means that the government does not involve with them. The government does not help them in any way. So the school really relies on the tuition of all the students. Therefore, culinary schools tend to be a lot more expensive than just the public school. So knowing that beforehand, I knew the kinds of questions that I had for the person that reached out to me. In this case, her name is Sangita.
Okay.
She's been in touch with me all this time, always giving me a call, asking me if I'm ready or
And
if
is
I
she
have
like a
changed.
career coach or?
She is the person in charge of admissions.
Admissions? Okay.
She actually and she's the one who reached out to me first,
Yeah.
and she helped me a lot. So she knew where I was in, what state I was in, and I knew where they were, of course, in Denver. From the beginning, we talked about tuition. I told her what are my options on paying off tuition. She told me, well, you can either pay it all at once if you have that money available to pay at the day before or the week before the school starts. If not, our school offers a financial plan for all students. So the course that I'll be taking is an 8-month uh, course, 32
Okay.
weeks, I
Yeah,
believe.
8 months.
And they gave me that flexibility to pay the $21,000 within 12 months interest free.
Oh, that's awesome.
This
Yeah.
was said with a different person. His name is Brian,
Okay.
and she sent me to him. So this two are the people that I've been contacting the most. And he was very nice, very kind, and he told me that I can make the plan be 12 months, which is the most that they'll do for most graduates, or I can make it 4 months, 8 months. It was up to me how I wanted the payments to be, how big I wanted them, or how many months I wanted to pay them
Right.
in. And so also he's a person I reached out for scholarships. They might not offer they might not get help from the government, but they do have a lot of scholarships within the institution. So in my case, I got the Passion Scholarship and the Alumni Scholarship. For the alumni, I only had to reach out to one other student, and she was also very helpful. Actually, I just reached out to Instagram, messaged her, asked her if she could write me a letter, and she was, yeah, I can help you. I actually just graduated from them, and then I can tell you it's a really good school. So that was $500. The Passion Scholarship, Brian, I had to fill up a form where I address all my expenses and all the things that I paid in the month and all of that. And then that was the 7,000 scholarship, I believe.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So 750, sorry,
Okay.
because there was a total of $8,000, but they deducted from all the tuition. So I only owe 13,000, I believe,
Out of the total.
out of the total 21,000.
So, okay, so in total, your program was 21,000.
Around 21,000,
And
yes.
then you were able to get scholarships by talking to the advisors there from admissions and financial aid.
Yes.
And now you're able to get it down to 13,000, which is really amazing. Being able to figure out what program you wanted to get into first, and then seeking help from people who had past experience, either worked there or past students, allowed you to get lots of opportunities.
Yes, I feel that nowadays we think we can do everything online or on social media, but really, if you like talk to people and explain them what you want to do, what you're trying to reach, they'll try to help you as much as they can. Because a lot of this information was not on their website, which is kind of sad, but because a lot of students will know, and a lot of students will give up within the first time they look, which is what I did. So first, when I graduated high school, I wanted to go into culinary school, but it was too expensive.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into a university or college, get a degree, and then maybe later work my way there. But now that I talked to Sangeeta and Ryan, they really explain how private institutions work, and they're not as complicated or as expensive as most of us would think of, which is the usual stereotype on culinary school. They're just
Yeah.
expensive, and then your wages are not as high.
Yeah, so that's really great. Brenda, do you think you could also translate a little bit in Spanish, about yourself, your education, and I really hope, especially what you were talking about right now in regards to the journey to go to um, uh, this culinary school, and then the process for the application that you had to go through, like your three main, points to figure out where you wanted to go, and then also the process to apply and the scholarships and how you found out about them real quick.
Yep, I can do that for sure. Okay, so buenas noches, me llamo Brenda. Yo nací en México, soy originaria del estado de Tlaxcala. Mis padres se mudaron aquí cuando yo tenía 13 años. Me acabo de graduar de la escuela de la Universidad de Utah con un bachillerato en manejo de negocios. Antes de venir a la Universidad de Utah, fui a la escuela de Salt Lake Community College, donde recibí mi asociado. Es un curso de 2 años. En eso tomé varias clases que me ayudaron a llegar a la Universidad de Utah y tomar solo las clases necesarias para obtener mi bachillerato. Ahorita estoy pensando en ir a la escuela de Scoffier School of Culinary Arts, donde voy a obtener un diploma de repostería. En esta escuela hay 4 tipos de diplomas, 2 son de cocineros y 2 son de repostería. Ellos ofrecen 2 diferentes diplomas en repostería. Uno te ofrece la habilidad de conocer la parte de negocios de una repostería, al igual que tener las habilidades de un repostero, mientras que el otro solo te da las habilidades, solo te enseñan a hacer los postres. El que yo voy a obtener solo va a ser el que se especifica o se especializa en el área de repostería. Por la razón que yo ya tengo un bachillerato en negocios, entonces sería un desperdicio obtener ese adicional curso de negocio cuando yo ya conozco los negocios. La escuela se encuentra en Boulder, Colorado. En los Estados Unidos solo hay alrededor de 3 diferentes escuelas. Está Scoffier y The Institute of Culinary Arts, que se encuentra en California, y otro en Nueva York. La razón por la que escogí la escuela de Scoffier es por 3 razones importantes. Una, cuando decidí tomar el paso de ir a una escuela culinaria, al hablar y buscar más información, esta escuela fue una de las primeras en acercarse a mí y decirme en qué me podían ayudar. Me gustó mucho la manera en que me trataron, aparte de que yo tenía muchas preguntas sobre cómo iba a funcionar esto. Ellos me ayudaron a clarificar muchas de las cosas, tanto financieras como perdón, como sobre qué es, cómo se pagaría, cómo son sus planes de pago y todo eso. Ellos, la persona con la que yo hablé se llama Sengira y ella me ayudó a explicarme el curso, el tiempo que tomaría y las maneras en que yo podría pagar la escuela. Um, la colegiatura es de alrededor de $21,000. Una escuela de repostería tiende a ser un poco cara por la razón que no tiene ayuda del gobierno. Entonces, muchas veces esto hace que estudiantes no traten de ir a una escuela culinaria por las razones que son demasiado caras un curso que dura solo 8 meses. Entonces ella me ayudó a contactarme con Ryan y con él pude obtener una beca de $8,500, lo cual hizo que mi total de deuda con la escuela bajara a $13,000. Y esos $13,000 me dieron la flexibilidad de pagarlos en pagos de $1,100 por mes por 12 meses, que son 4 meses pasando mi graduación, porque yo me gradué en 8 meses, pero el plan que ellos ofrecen es muy extenso. También te dan la opción de hacer menos pagos, pero por supuesto la cantidad va a ser aún más alta. And that's all.
Great. Okay, so now we're gonna go into more depth into what it takes to get a diploma in pastry arts, specifically the curriculum, the tuition, the equipment, the financial aid that's available. And we kind of went over it a little bit, but let's just go over it one more time.
So yes, so the program that I'm taking is a 32-week program, like I said.
And is that normal? Like, are most culinary schools around that?
Yes, so
Okay.
most culinary schools will offer programs that are either 32 weeks
Okay.
or 6 weeks if you want to.
Oh, really? Even 6 weeks?
Yeah, so they have different programs. Like for me, if I decided to expand my knowledge on bread, I
Okay.
could go on for like 3 more months
Yeah.
into just focusing on bread.
Gotcha.
But this program, which covers pastries from the basics to breads, it's 32 weeks.
Okay.
And in those 32 weeks, 2 months, I'll be doing an externalship. I believe it's called
Okay.
externship. What it is every student at Escoffiers gets to find a place, so a pastry shop or a chef that they want to work with for 2 months, either in Colorado or in any other state, and so that we can get that experience of what it is to be a pastry chef.
Okay. Yeah.
Housing, of course, is not included within the tuition, so
So it's separate from that
so it's separate.
21,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So pretty much the students have to figure that out by themselves. Um, but other than that, those 2 months are already included in your tuition, so you don't have to pay extra.
Okay.
And it is something that all of the culinary schools require,
Okay.
because it does give students a better understanding of what really is it to be a pastry chef. Practice, yeah. Practical
Yeah, in
knowledge.
person, trying to figure out, if this is actually what you want to do, which I think is really great. So basically, like most people, when they think about it, they think of internships. I did some internships over the summer, which allowed me to understand, how businesses ran, how management, dealt with issues and how they problem solved, created programs. But when we're going into more technical or very specified programs like this, like pastry school, rather than having like an internship, you instead are going to be in an environment where you're practicing the skills that you're learning within your school, and you're going to have, a mentorship that will allow you to, learn about experiences from their previous, education and jobs, and as well as figuring out, the importance of, what you need to learn within your schooling to be prepared for real life once you actually graduate from the program. Again, like with other schools, we usually have to buy books or software for our computers, but obviously pastry school is a little bit different. I see the cost for equipment is about $450. What exactly are you buying with that?
So with that, they give us all the ingredients that we're gonna need.
Okay.
As a pastry chef, all you really need is practice.
Mm-hmm.
So we have unlimited tries of practicing all the times that we need, and within that, it also includes uniforms and any utensils that we might use. So like measuring cups, or I think chefs get their chef set.
I see.
So for us, it's just uniforms, all the supplies, so all the ingredients that we're gonna need. And due to COVID, we are only going to be in class 2 days a week with the professor and all of other students, and then the other 2 weeks we're gonna be on our home practicing. but they're giving us all the ingredients so that we don't have to use our own pocket money to buy the ingredients because they'll provide it for us to practice those 2 days that we're not going to be in the school.
And then do you get to keep the different types of like utensils and such? Like, do you get to keep that because you're
Yes.
paying for it?
Yes,
Okay.
we do get to keep all uniforms, even the food. We do get to.
Yeah, it's like, what about the food? Do you get to keep the food too?
Yes.
I'll have to come visit you. Tell me when you do your final exams, and I'll come by.
I'll tell you so you can be there and
Perfect.
tell me how they are.
And I know you kind of went into the financial aid, but it looks like there's like several different types of like scholarships. If you could go a little bit more in that.
So the competitive culinary arts scholarship, that is more for high school graduates.
Okay.
In high school, there is usually, I don't know if it is on all schools or just here, but I know at least in Utah we do have that program because I did took that course. So it's called ProStar. What it is kind of like a beginner's course of how to cook, how to cut, the basics of safetiness in the kitchen and all that. The program covers a lot of different techniques, so bread, desserts, puddings, and all of that, but it's just like on a basic level for students to really understanding if they want to be a pastry or a chef in the future.
Yeah.
I took that course back in high school, and it only cost me $100 for the whole high school year.
Oh, so it was like an entire year course.
Yes, you can either do a full year or half a year.
Okay.
And the $100 was mostly for ingredients and the uniform.
Okay.
Because we are given
a
a
great
uniform.
price.
Yes.
Compared to 21,000.
Yes.
Right?
Compared to 21,000, it's nothing.
Yeah. So, what about like institutional? You kind of talked about.
So the
through
institution
school.
scholarship, yeah. So those are scholarships within the school. In this case, they have the Passion Scholarship, the Alumni Scholarship, and then other two scholarships that one of the scholarship was offered specifically for the month of June, I think.
Okay.
It was a $2,000 scholarship that they offered
Nice.
only on that
Specific
month. Yes, only on June because they were starting classes on July, I think. So anyone who started on July got to get that scholarship if they applied.
What about like FAFSA? Like, can you get FAFSA or any it's a private school, so I'm assuming you can't get any kind of government help or funding.
You could, but most of the times I think it doesn't really help.
Okay.
Just because it's not like public.
It's not a public school, so
Yeah.
you wouldn't be able to get any like loans.
I think you
through-
can, but the interests are a bit higher.
The interest is higher.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know. And then also, obviously, outside of the institute, I'm assuming like if you.
Yes, so they have other institutions or hotels that offer scholarships for
Oh, really?
students.
Hotels.
Yeah, mostly institutions also. They offer different amounts of money for scholarships. I wasn't able to apply for any of them because they were for the month of, they were due on February, but I might try to apply this next February since
The upcoming.
for the upcoming year since I end my course on May. So the scholarships might also still be applied.
Oh, interesting.
Because culinary school is not like a regular university.
Right.
They run differently depending on the program that you're on. Is for chefs is like 10 months. For culinary, for pastry is 8 months depending on the diploma that I'm getting. So it runs a little different. The scholarships are due in different times, but they apply right away. So for your tuition, they applies and then your payments go down.
So anyone interested in going into culinary school, either to become a chef or a pastry, into the pastry like business, make sure to find out the deadlines to apply for this school and deadlines to get like scholarships. Obviously, Brenda she barely graduated in the summer, so she didn't have the opportunity that other students might have in the future. Obviously, now you'll be able to apply in February, but for those who graduate, in December and want to go into culinary school, realize that you only have 1 or 2 months to apply for extra scholarships within the institute as well as without it. And then that sometimes there might be scholarships that you wouldn't have realized about. So focus on asking, get together with like an admissions person and a financial advisor and see, what months might they have extra scholarships, like the one they had in June that you wouldn't have expected. I wouldn't have expected any institute to just have a scholarship
Over
for
the
one month.
$2,000 scholarship,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. So, make sure to get into touch with someone who has the knowledge ahead of time before you decide to go into an institution, because you might be losing money, if you decide to start school in November, when in reality you could get a bunch of scholarships in February if you just waited a couple months and then started your program. So that's really great. Okay, so obviously now we need to talk a little bit about like what is expected within the program in regards to curriculum, and then the type of classroom life. Obviously with COVID, things are changing. Like you said, you're gonna have less time
In
with,
classroom.
yeah, in classroom with other people. And I think, that's kind of, it's kind of difficult considering the type of program you're going into, because you want to be with the professor, or the chef, I guess, and you want to be with other students so you can see their mistakes and see what they're doing correctly so you can figure out your own mistakes. So how are you going to continue this program with the things that are normally going on, as well as having to modify your classroom life with COVID?
So of course there were a lot of modifications that the school had to do. One of them being we're gonna be in the kitchens, but we're gonna be all separate.
Okay.
We're also gonna be wearing masks all the time.
Oh, I see.
And what they did, instead of not allowing more students to enroll in the semester, what they did is like they added um, another. I guess they
Section?
divided us into two different teams.
Oh, okay.
So team A might have classes Tuesday and Wednesday, like in-person classes with the chef, while the B team will have in-classroom practice on Thursdays and Fridays. Everyone has to be in Zoom on Monday for just regular lectures.
Okay.
And so they divide us into groups. They made sure we're not crossing or with the chef's programs. So their time and our times are different. We, I think they start school earlier. My classes start from 12 to 6 p.m. And so they're just trying to make sure that we're not having as much contact with a lot of people. And the other 2 days that we're not in the kitchen, we are practicing by ourselves, and they're providing us with all the ingredients.
And then are they going to have like additional videos, or are you just going to be practicing by yourself, something you already learned in class previously?
I am not so sure about that. As far as I know is we'll go, the chef would teach us, and then we'll practice on those 2 days, and then we'll keep practicing the next 2 days.
Oh, okay.
So I know the chef will be available for us to contact on any questions we have on those 2 days. But other than that, we haven't heard much about how they're handling those videos or if we're gonna have access to other things.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. So like regularly, of course, like curriculum, you would have, learned about the foundation of pastries, entry level to mid level jobs as a baker or pastry assistant, and then you'll have your externship for 2 months. In
Yes.
classroom life, you're gonna have like lectures, like in like a regular lecture hall, like anyone else would, where the chef just talks about
Yes, pretty much.
practices and stuff.
So we'll be doing also math within the class because they want to make sure that we know how to convert recipes. How to
Ah,
make
so you need to
sure.
learn math in regards to,
Yes.
cooking and stuff, which is really important.
We're also going to have a little lecture on chemistry, so we're not mixing the wrong ingredients and
Yeah.
creating something
That tastes
explosive.
bad, or that could be accidentally poisonous to someone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and then we're also going to have a basic understanding of where pastry chefs come from, the history. They don't focus too much on the history of food. They do
Okay.
that on the other program, but not on this one.
Nice.
But we do get a little bit of this and that in history and a basic foundation on math conversions and how much we must charge for our products and how we can do the conversions so that we can get or how to get a profit from our creations.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's a very like holistic program where it's focusing on many different aspects. Your finances, how to be profitable. Your skill set, how to be better with how you're cook. Your pastries and breads and etc. learning about history, learning about, math and chemistry that are related to cooking. So it's a lot of people I think of like pastry and like cooking classes or cooking programs as something very simple and for people who, can't handle like high stress jobs or very like difficult difficult level of jobs. But in reality, like it takes a lot to be, in a pastry chef program. And so I think it's really admirable that you decided to go into this kind of a program. And I'm hoping people will now learn that. Like my previous program, I talked about different types of intelligence, like, being able to, learn about your surroundings, learn about food, nutrition, health is all, is a type of intelligence itself. And so we should recognize other people and, if we have children who in the future want to go into these programs, we should encourage them because now you know the benefits of these programs as well. So let's kind of go back so you can kind of also translate that in Spanish as well.
Ok, so el programa que voy a tomar es de 32 semanas, que son alrededor de 8 meses, pero 2 meses al final de, de estos 8 meses voy a tener que hacer una externship, lo cual significa que voy a tener que trabajar para algún repostero o en alguna tienda de reposterías. Esto lo que hace es darnos un poco de lo que se siente trabajar como repostero y las cosas que se tienen que hacer y solo para también ayudarnos a practicar lo que ya hemos hecho en el salón. Como expliqué hace unos segundos atrás, la escuela, dado que no es una escuela pública, es un poco más cara que una universidad pública. Entonces, lo que hace la escuela de Escoffier es ser un poco flexible con los tipos de becas que da a sus estudiantes. Por la institución ofrecen diferentes tipos de beca, como la de Alumni y la de Passion Scholarships. También ofrecen un plan de pagos donde cada estudiante puede escoger si quiere pagar su colegiatura en 4, en 8 o en 12 meses, que es lo más que pueden dar para que sean los pagos un poco más pequeños. También lo que estábamos platicando que hay en ciertos meses diferentes becas donde te pueden dar becas adicionales o como becas que se le ofrecen solo a estudiantes que terminaron su preparatoria o su high school. Entonces ellos pueden visitar las páginas de internet o hablar directamente con una persona del instituto que ellos tienen demasiada información sobre los diferentes tipos de pagos, de becas que ofrecen. Igual y dependiendo los meses en el que piensa empezar, son como las becas son accesibles. En el mes de febrero hay varias becas que ofrecen fuera de la institución, que son por medio de instituciones privadas que se enfocan en ayudar a estudiantes que deciden entrar a la educación culinaria. También en la high school ofrecen programas que se llaman ProStart, donde te dan el beneficio de ver si ser repostero o chef es algo que quieres. Entonces tomas el curso que puede durar todo el año escolar o solo la mitad de año. Esos cursos también te los acreditan para la universidad o la escuela culinaria y solo necesitarías tomar ciertos cursos. En la escuela es un poco diferente a una universidad normal. Los cursos son de diferentes meses, pueden ser de 8 a 10 meses, dependiendo del curso que desea tomar, y empiezan en diferentes temporadas. Mi curso va a empezar en septiembre 28, so in like 2 weeks I'll be starting my course, which is untypical for regular schools. Y en eso, debido a la pandemia que tenemos ahorita, Lo que se va a hacer es que los lunes nos vamos a encontrar todos por medio de Zoom y vamos a tomar la clase, la lectura, las notas. La clase se enfoca en lo básico de la repostería, desde postres hasta cómo hacer panes, y también nos enfocan un poco en la historia de la repostería, un poco en matemáticas, en química, y nos enseñan a saber cuánto cuesta cada producto que vamos a hacer, cuánto debemos cobrar por nuestros productos y servicios. I forgot to mention that they also teach you a little bit on nutrition,
Yep.
so you can create that little balance of like being able to have vegan pastries or all of that.
Oh, like gluten free, or
Mhm.
if you have like a customer who's dairy free or
Yeah,
something like that.
they teach you how to adjust to those modifications in your pastries.
Nice.
También te ayudan en nutrición, te dan un poco de eso para que puedas modificar tus recetas cuando tengas clientes que necesiten una cierta dieta. Después, es mucha práctica, entonces nos dividieron en dos grupos, el grupo A y el grupo B. El grupo A puede que vaya unos martes y miércoles a la escuela con el maestro, mientras que nosotros estamos en nuestras casas practicando. Los otros 2 días ellos van a estar en clase en su casa, mientras nosotros vamos a estar con el chef tomando la lección y practicando. And so that was pretty much it on. Eso fue cómo va a ser la vida en la escuela una vez que regresemos, y los ajustes que tuvieron que hacer por lo de la pandemia que ahorita se está viviendo.
Okay, so now we're just going to go a little bit into education in Mexico, just to do kind of a quick compare and contrast. Because I obviously want this to be more of an international, universal show where we can compare finances all around the world, especially in regards to education, income, and lifestyle. I'll let you translate that real quick.
Alright, so ahorita ella, nuestra presentadora, desea que este programa sea un programa que incluya varias diversidades de personas, y ahorita vamos a hablar un poco de México sobre el costo de vida, la educación, los niveles de educación, y no pudimos encontrar mucha información sobre las escuelas culinarias porque son privadas, pero vamos a tratar de hablar un poco de la educación después de la preparatoria en México.
So I'll kind of go into just various things about the education in Mexico in general. So, you have to go to school until 12th grade, just like in any other country. Well, at least in the US, you have to go to school until 12th grade as well. You can drop out, but it'll be very difficult to try and find, a good job or career. The main language there is Spanish, so if you decide to ever go there and study, you'd have to learn Spanish. And then their academic year is between September to May. So unlike here in the US, it's usually, well, it's around the same time usually. It's end of August to around May, so it's around the same. And it looks like in regards to, the number of students, at least in 2018 for undergraduates is about, 15,000. So I guess I didn't really have a comparison in regards to the US or at least Utah, but depending on what country you are and the level of education and, the government support and community programs, it can be difficult to go to school depending on where you're located. I know that, so their grading scale is, most of the same as here. They have a grading scale out of 10, and I know in America it's like similar where you, out of 100%, you get a certain amount of points. And they, it's the same. A is the best grade, F is, failing. You get your transcripts. It looks like you also can learn English while you go there, and you usually get some kind of photocopy of your degree. And we're going to go more in depth, but this is kind of the overall education system from like the very beginning until you get your doctorates and the different types of levels that they have. But I know Brenda's going to go into that in the future. I'll let you go ahead and translate that as well, and if you have anything else to add.
Ok, so vamos a hablar un poco de la educación de México. Los meses empiezan de septiembre a mayo, que es un poco similar a la de Estados Unidos. La manera en la que se califican los estudiantes es igual como ya sabemos, los que vivimos en México sabemos que es del 1 al 10, 10 siendo la calificación más alta, que en Estados Unidos sería una A o un 100%, mientras un 5, perdón, no 10, no uno, es una F, que es la calificación más baja y que varios sabemos que en México pues si nos reprueban, si no sacamos más de una F. Aquí no los reprueban mucho, pero eso es un poco diferente y otro tema. En el 2018, 17 y 18, las personas que se graduaron de la preparatoria es de un 57%, lo cual es un poquito más alto de cómo se veía antes. Y vamos a hablar un poco de los diferentes niveles de educación que hay en México, desde el jardín de niños hasta obtener un doctorado.
Okay, so the different types of education levels in Mexico. You start with your preschool, ages 3 to 6, elementary school ages grades 1 to 6, middle school 7 to 9, and that is free for all students. And then you have to go into your upper education, where high school grades 10 to 12. You can go to a technical education if you would like to get technical skills, plumbing, electrical, etc. You could go to vocational. Technological education. So if you wanted to go into software, or you could go into vocational and technical education, which is more like plumbing, hands-on skills. And that does require entrance fees and maybe other fees, depending on if it's a private institution, you might have a uniform or specific textbooks, or just more fees because you're in like a private setting. And then we go into higher education. Similar to the US, again, you have associate degrees, bachelor degrees, graduate degrees. And then depending on your GPA, you may or may not have to take an entrance exam. And comparing that to the US, we have those basic levels again, and I think it's mostly free. Sometimes you do have to pay for a lunch, or depending on if it's private, you might have uniforms throughout all of these different levels. Upper education here, we have public high schools and we have private high schools. Private, you have to pay for a lot of fees, and that's because they're smaller and they have specialized programs, whereas public you might have a couple of fees, just for paperwork, for food if you decide to have your kid, get school lunch, or they can have their own lunch and they don't have to pay any, you know, uh, lunch fees. And then, depending on the type of high school, they might have to buy books on their own, but overall it's pretty cheap, not very expensive. And the higher education, associate degrees, bachelor's degrees, graduate degrees, um, they're all they're very depending on the the location you're at, the type of school, the type of specialized programs. So that tuition varies in America, as I'm assuming it does in Mexico as well.
Yeah, so if we go on to the next slide, maybe.
So yeah, this is just a quick translation. So if you also want to translate it in Spanish as well, in Farsi.
So, como ya sabemos, los diferentes niveles de escuela van del nivel básico, que es del preescolar, la primaria hasta la secundaria, y usualmente esos instituciones o esos cursos de escuela son gratuitos para todos los estudiantes, sin incluir los uniformes y comidas que se tienen que pagar. Um, Mientras que la educación alta viene siendo el bachillerato, la high school como se conoce aquí, o cualquier otro instituto tecnológico o vocacional que se ofrece mucho allá. Y la educación más alta viene siendo un bachillerato o un doctorado, una maestría o un asociado se llama, que es el más bajo, pero igual que en todo, varía dependiendo en cada estado, entonces no podemos darles una específica cantidad sobre cuánto cuesta la educación, debido a que en varios estados es muy diferente.
Okay, and then costs in Mexico are a lot different than the costs here in the U.S. Obviously, because of the difference in currency, as well as the programs that are available to students there. So tuition-wise in public schools, it's about 5,000 a year, U.S. dollars, or about, is this per year? Or is this per semester? So maybe I'll let you explain this part.
So, the nervous system.
Both.
Both. Okay. So, just like in the U.S., they're divided into different semesters.
Okay.
And I did have a friend who went to school in Mexico.
Nice.
And so he also got scholarships, but he had to pay every semester a certain amount, just like here.
Nice. Yeah. For his undergraduate.
Yes, for his undergraduate. He also graduated in business administration.
Nice.
So we were in the same program. And so this amounts are an estimate of what it could be in US dollars
Right. So 5,000 would be for the total cost of tuition.
per year, which is
Right.
also a 3 to 4 year program.
Okay. So in total, it would be maybe about 20,000 for a 4-year
For a
degree.
4 year. Yeah.
And then that 378 to 880, 818, is that due to scholarships? You might be able to get that low.
Yes, so I think if you add this up
Uh-huh.
per semester, it might give you that amount, but it really depends on the state.
Okay.
So this is just like a nationwide estimate of the different programs that they might have. This prices may also vary depending on the program that you are in,
Okay.
because each program is different, just like here. A doctor, of course, has to pay more, and the schools are different, and everything's different.
Yeah, this would be just for maybe a general 4-year degree, not associates, not a doctorate or master's. And we obviously can see the difference in the pricing. In the U.S., it can be just between, for a public school, I want to say between maybe 6,000 to 15,000 a year. And then we have private institutions. In Mexico, it seems it's about between 2,000 to 16,000. It varies depending, but I think here usually it can go between 30,000, sometimes $40,000.
But also, there's a difference on the education. So in
Uh-huh.
here,
Yeah.
when you first start school, you go into getting your generals, which is your English and your math, basics
Science,
and all
basic
that.
skills, yeah.
While in there, they don't take those.
I
So
see.
the entrance exam was supposed to cover that,
To see if you have the knowledge ahead
then
of
enough
time.
knowledge, and then you just go directly into your program. So
Oh.
they waste no time in like generals and like PE and any of those courses. They just go directly. If you say you want to be a doctor, they directly put you into the medical school, and then you just go there.
So why does it take on average like 4 years for like a business degree, for example?
On average, it takes 4 years because 3 years you are mainly in the school, while 1 year they make you practice. So do an internship. Every student must do an internship. While here it's kind of, if you want to, and there is mandatory, a 1 year. I think that year they divided into different sections. So each semester, each student must complete a certain amount of hours that they do their internship, so that at the end of when they graduate, they have a certain amount of hours. But I think those hours also depend on the school.
Oh, okay. And then, the cost of living there is obviously lower. Housing, is that like rent? Is rent usually between 150 to 200?
For international students, yes.
Okay,
Most in Mexico, most people own their homes.
I see.
So, but it really depends on which part of the country you are.
Okay.
So in Mexico City, it's a lot of renting.
Yeah.
While in the towns, it's a lot of people owning their own houses.
Okay.
So they don't pay rent.
The major universities that I'm assuming are near the bigger cities
Yes.
like Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's a lot cheaper. I know just in Utah when we're thinking about, a small studio, that could be between, 500 to 1,000, and just a regular apartment is, usually around 800. So that obviously living there is a lot more affordable.
Also, transportation is very flexible. There's a lot of cars, a lot of trains, different things that you can take to get to wherever places you want. So it's more accessible, and it is cheaper
Yeah.
than to have a car.
Yeah, so, a monthly cost might be around 400, 500 in regards to, transportation, food, rent, etc. And obviously there's scholarships that you might get for housing or food eventually.
So most of the scholarships are focused on your program
I
specifics.
see.
They don't help you with food or housing, but those scholarships are usually through your institution
Okay.
or through the school you're transferring from.
Yeah. I'll let you answer that
Okay,
as well.
so en México tenemos un estimado de que la educación alta o superior, como se le conoce, es de alrededor de de $5,000 por año. Esto, claro, es una estimación debido a que diferentes lugares, el precio de cada escuela es diferente, el precio de cada programa, al igual que los cargos extras que se pueden pedir de tomar un bachillerato, un asociado, un doctorado, una maestría. Todos esos precios son variables, pero en esta ocasión les tenemos una estimación de cuánto puede pagar un estudiante por un programa de 4 años. También debemos recordar que el costo de vida en México es un poco bajo. La renta viene siendo entre 150 a $200 por mes en las ciudades más grandes, mientras que hay mucha accesibilidad en transportación y es un poco más barato, al igual que las comidas. Ya sabemos que hay la comida callejera que se puede encontrar en todas partes y es muy barato. Al igual, por medio de la institución o de la institución por la que la persona que se quiere transferir al Estado de México o al país puede obtener diferentes becas, ya sea por su institución o por la institución a la que va a ir en México.
Okay, so we finally came to the point we were both waiting, is to make some dessert for everyone and to kind of explain the process of making a simple dessert for home that's really quick and easy, the cost of it, and we'll kind of move on and talk more about Brenda's goals in the future and some tips she has to share and any messages she might want to share to current students or anyone in general who is looking to go into like cooking school or culinary school, etc. Pastry school. So we're gonna start by making a chocolate lava cake, and if we have time, we might make what kind of muffins?
Blueberry
We
muffins.
might make blueberry muffins if you have
We'll
time.
make the basic base of it, and then you can really add anything you want at that
Oh,
point.
perfect.
I
Okay.
love blueberries today.
I'm gonna.
Oh, of course. Vamos a hacer un postre. En este momento vamos a hacerles un chocolate lava cake. Si tenemos tiempo, les haremos unos muffins de blueberry o de mora azul. Pero si no, solo haremos uno y les introduciré un poco sobre la base de hacer unos muffins y le pueden añadir lo que ustedes quieran.
So, do you want to just quickly have the PowerPoint on your phone? Because we'll be moving from the screen. That way I can kind of show the other slides that we had. I'll show them right now as well. Actually, why don't we just go through the slides while we're here? So, yeah, why don't you go ahead and kind of talk to us about the ingredients?
So the ingredients that we need for the lava cake are cocoa powder to grease our tins, 4 tins. If you decide to make them smaller, then you can do more than 4. My
This is
tins
for how many lava cakes?
4.
4 lava cakes.
They're
Okay.
very small lava cakes. Then we have 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. It can be dark chocolate or chocolate milk, chocolate. And half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of butter, 3 eggs, 3 egg yolks, 1 cup of powdered sugar, half a cup of all-purpose flour, and some more powdered sugar just to garnish them. Los ingredientes van a ser polvo de cocoa, 6 onzas de chocolate semidulce, puede ser amargo o puede ser de chocolate, de chocolate, 3 huevos, 3 yemas, media taza más 2 cucharadas de mantequilla, 1,5 tazas de azúcar glass, media taza de harina y un poquito más de azúcar glass para adornar.
Okay, and then why don't we go through like the method real quick as well?
All right, so I pretty much gave you a summary of the steps, but it's pretty basic. So we're gonna preheat our oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. We're gonna grease the tins with either butter, any kind of oils that you have. I prefer vegetable oil just because you don't feel the flavor. If you want to do olive oil, it's too strong and it might overpower the chocolate.
Okay.
Or you can do butter. Just melt a little bit of butter on your microwave and then spread it with a brush. And then we're gonna cover them with the cocoa powder so that they don't stick. Then we're gonna melt our chocolate and our butter on low heat, and then we're gonna let it cool for a bit. Then we're gonna whisk the eggs and the egg yolks until they're well mixed. Sorry for the typo there. And then we're gonna incorporate the powdered sugar. Then we're gonna add the melted chocolate, the melted good chocolate with the flour. And then we're just gonna divide them and then bake them for 12 to 14 minutes. Oh, para hacerlo vamos a calentar nuestro horno a 450 grados. Vamos a barnizar nuestros contenedores con aceite o mantequilla, o no les recomendaría aceite de olivo porque es un poco fuerte. Después le vamos a poner la cocoa en polvo y vamos a mezclar en otro bowl los huevos, las yemas. Vamos a derretir nuestro chocolate junto con nuestra mantequilla y después la mezcla de chocolate se la vamos a añadir a los huevos junto con la harina y los huevos y la azúcar glass. Les demostraré en un segundo ya que estos pasos fueron un poco confusos y lo vamos a hornear por unos 12 a 14 minutos.
Okay, and then we'll go a little bit into the cost. So we have the various ingredients, right? The cocoa powder only costed you $2.98 in total, but you're only going to be using a tablespoon, so only 37 cents. And then we're going to go into the breakdown of all of them. You know, the total costs are right here, and then the breakdowns, you know, only using about, you know, $1, 45 cents, 7 cents, etc. per serving. So in reality, like even though you're buying, it looks to be around, you know, about you know $10 total for all of her. Is it $10 for this, or is it $10 just to make four?
To make them.
Okay, so for her to make four like little chocolate lava cakes, it takes about $10. The ingredients cost themselves are probably maybe around what, $20?
Wow.
About $20. So you could make a between, you know, maybe like 8 to 10 chocolate lava cakes with the products that you bought. So that's not too bad. You know, dessert, everyone loves dessert. So spending a little bit more to get better products obviously has a better taste and is a better reflection on your cooking skills, depending on if you're the one cooking or if you're the one eating. So, and then of course that's just translated, so if you want to translate as well.
Los que tenemos en pantalla muestra los ingredientes, al igual su precio total de cada ingrediente, cuántas onzas tiene o cuánto contiene cada ingrediente, y los precios marcados abajo vienen siendo el precio que costó hacer ese pastel. Este es el precio total de los 4 pasteles que vamos a hacer y este es su precio individual de cada pastel.
And so how can you know, how do you decide if an ingredient is good or if it's of like high quality?
So usually I like to read the backs of the ingredients.
Okay.
Cocoa powder tends to be, you can find it either really cheap or really expensive. The reasons is that when they are chemically made, I think it's the term.
Yeah,
chemically modified, it tends to be cheaper. But then there's a lot of risk on the quality and the taste of it. Yes, and so whenever I read that, I just decide to step back from it and then pick something else. It might cost a little bit more, but if you think about it, throughout your life, it can save your life, really. Yeah. I also try to stay away from palm oil or any of those oils, which is even corn syrup, I try to stay away from, just because our bodies cannot process corn syrup.
Yeah, so things your bodies can't process, when you read the ingredients and you see a lot of like big chemical names or like just ingredient lists that you just don't understand what it is, probably stay away from them. Even if you're trying to buy more organic, it might cost a little bit more, but in the end, it's going to be more worthwhile with, the taste, the actual ingredient itself is more pure, and your health is going to be better overall as well long term.
And I save you for visit at the hospital too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and let's see. Yeah, why don't we go ahead and start cooking a little bit, and then I can ask you these questions on your phone and at the same time. So today we're actually at the University of Utah at Lassonde, which is one of the dorms, and they actually have a kitchen here for students to cook with their friends or to make meals in general, which is amazing. And we're on the 5th floor where it's a lot of more about gaming, etc. So they have a lot of gaming areas. So now we're gonna follow over to the kitchen here, and Brenda has already set out all of her. So we have her pot, her whisk, etc. All of the ingredients, the measuring tools. So we're all prepared and ready, and obviously Brenda's apron. So why don't we get started? Okay, so Brenda, now go ahead and kind of just translate what I just said. Oh yeah, obviously with COVID, make sure to wash your hands. Brenda has short hair, but if you have longer hair, I know that in a lot of colleges and etc. that they expect you to tie your hair back or put like a net on. Have gloves depending on what you're cooking. Have an apron, so that's very important.
Okay, so nos vamos a lavar un poquito las manos para hacer nuestros productos. So first we're gonna preheat this oven to 450.
Okay.
Just making sure. Just make sure there's nothing in there. All good.
How long does it usually take to preheat?
Usually ovens take about 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
But we want it to be warm, and we want to preheat this right before we start, just because we want the oven to be hot, so that when we put the cakes in it, the oven is hot, and then the cakes just bake on the outside, and then leave a gooey middle.
Gotcha.
All right, so we're gonna, first of all, we're gonna cut some butter, which I already kind of did just to save some time. And then we're gonna put it on a saucepan.
Okay.
And to that, we're gonna add 6 ounces of the chocolate. And you can either cut this with a knife or just with your hands break it a little. And since it's gonna at room temperature, it's gonna break very, very easily. Just like that. Then the powder cut. You can also mix different chocolates, like dark chocolate or 70% chocolate with 40%, so it's not too bitter or too sweet. You can really adapt this to your taste. Vamos a derretir la mantequilla con un poco de chocolate. Es chocolate semi dulce y la mantequilla no es salada. So we have unsalted butter in here. You don't want the salted butter because it's just gonna make everything very, very salty. So this might take a little long, but I think this is where Asma can ask me her questions if she has them ready. Vamos a derretir la mantequilla, como se había dicho, con el chocolate. En lo que tarda esto en hacerse, Asma nos va a hacer una de sus preguntas. En lo que lo prepara, vamos a mover esto y asegurarnos que esto esté caliente. Okay, you want to do this on medium heat just because you don't want the chocolate to be really, really hot. And also, if you get it really hot, the particles in the chocolate are just going to start to separate and you're going to end up with fats on one side and then the chocolate on the other side. And that's not good. And you want to stir this not very often, just now and then, so everything is melting evenly. Vamos a derretir el chocolate a temperatura media alta. No queremos una temperatura muy alta ya que esto podría quemar nuestro chocolate y lo va a amargar mucho y lo va a hacer que se separe entre grasas y cocoa y no nos va a servir después. So we can see that this is starting to melt a little. I should have brought a bigger pan just because this is taking more time. If you don't have an oven or don't want to do this on an oven, what you can do is heat some water on a pan or have some hot water with you. Put it on one bowl and then melt this on a different bowl. So kind of like a bain-marie is called. And you have your bowl and then another bowl melting this. And that's another easy way to melt the chocolate and not burning it.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, so Brenda, do you kind of want to talk to me a little bit about your future outlook, kind of what you're expecting in general for after you've graduated?
Yes, so it's the jobs that you get after graduating pastry school are kind of limited and unlimited at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
So you can either work for a hotel, for a restaurant, for a country club, or any types of things like that, or you can open your own bakery, your own restaurant, but that usually asks for a lot of money, as we all know.
Oh, I see. What do you want to start out with? Like, do you want to first work for someone, or do you want to start your own business?
What most chefs do is they'll work for 2 years, a year, for a different either company or for a chef.
Okay.
Most chefs would usually require a pastry chef just because chefs are not quite strong on baking. And if they have a restaurant they have desserts, they obviously need a pastry chef. And they just want to avoid the hustle to learn those skills, so they hire us. So usually we'll work for them, then we'll have we'll try to open our own either restaurants or bakeries just to have more income.
Yeah.
Since being a pastry chef is not quite the best paid job, but it also depends where you work.
Yeah.
So many hotels might pay higher than just a regular restaurant downtown, as we know.
So how long is it going to take for this to melt usually? Like,
It usually takes about 5 minutes. As we can see, it's already melting. The thing that takes the longest to melt is the chocolate.
okay.
The butter usually melts really, really fast.
Nice.
And once we have it melted, we can take it out of the stove. You don't need to boil or anything because it's not what we want. We just want this to melt.
So I know you told me, on average, a salary is around 48,000 to 79,000. So is 48,000 usually the starting salary for a pastry chef?
Usually, yes. So
Okay.
most of the times we'll start as assistants,
Okay.
and then after that, we'll move into being either the head pastry chef or um, running pretty much the kitchen.
I see.
So it really depends on the industry that you're in. On hotels, you usually they separate you into their being in the kitchen and then running their events.
Okay. Yeah, so a lot of people I don't think realize how much money you can make, being a chef or a pastry chef. Starting out 48,000 is a lot of money. Most people on average, depending on the type of career they go, usually only make around, 50,000 to 55,000. And then once they get a promotion, it can go up between like 60,000 to 80,000. And those are for, just regular jobs anyone can go into. So for those looking into going into cooking, realize that there is a big opportunity to not only do what you love, but also to make enough money to survive as well, which I think is very important.
Also, we must remember that nowadays we can work from our own homes. I've done a few caterings this summer. I cater for a couple of my mom's friends, and you can just get some extra money from catering or just doing things at home and then doing promotion on Facebook and things like that.
Yeah.
That's another
Especially with COVID.
Yes.
Yeah, doing your own at-home business, catering to other people, going to very specialized desserts that are more difficult than other desserts. Being specifically if you are for weddings or maybe if you are there for like big business events, you can make money that way. You can also, write your own cookbook. You can sell stuff on social media. You could create merchandise. Everyone knows, Martha Stewart and Snoop Dogg. So creating a brand for yourself, creating a name of a company are all ways that you can kind of get out there and become someone in the public eye in regards to being a high, chef or pastry artist.
Also, this industry is growing a lot, which is kind of nice that it's now in my time. So we can see that this is all melted, and there's no little clumps or butter or anything. It's all melted. We're gonna let it cool here for a little bit, and while that cools, we're gonna start whisking our eggs. So this recipe calls for 3 eggs, and I already washed them. And you always want to wash eggs.
Now, why do you want to wash eggs?
So since the egg comes from the chicken, obviously it has some bacteria around the shells, and when you crack them, you want to crack them on a flat surface. So you're not doing it on the edge of this because then the bacteria goes in. But you want to do it on a flat surface so it breaks evenly, and that bacteria does not go into it.
And then, have you ever heard the difference between refrigerating your eggs versus not refrigerating your eggs? I know in European countries, I'm not sure in Mexico if they refrigerate their eggs or not, but I know in the U.S. we have to.
Yes. So in Mexico, you pretty much get your eggs fresh, depending on which part you live, and they usually don't refrigerate them for the reason that they're fresh, and because they also buy the amount that they need per day, not per week, which we do here. Here we buy in big amounts of quantities are big, and we just have to cool them or else they just go bad. While in Mexico, you pretty much buy them every day.
Yeah.
So right now I'm separating the eggs, the egg white from the egg yolk, and then you can either use the eggshells like I'm doing here, or you can use your fingers and then just have them set like this, and then you just have to get them. And then would you grab me a towel?
Yeah, of course.
Ok, so una vez que ya se derritió el chocolate, pusimos los 3 huevos y las 3 yemas. Y ahorita lo que vamos a hacer vamos a revolver esto. So we're just gonna whisk this until it's combined.
Do you also want to kind of talk about the salary in the different places you can work? Translate that as well.
Um, el salario de una repostera es de alrededor de $400, 40,000 dólares al año. Eso está un poco bajo del promedio, pero normalmente al empezar un trabajo las personas ganan entre 50 a 40 mil, entonces no estamos tan bajos ni tan altos. También los diferentes lugares donde podemos trabajar es en restaurantes, en hoteles, en nuestras propias reposterías, pero usualmente lo que hacen es trabajar un tiempo con reposteros o en hoteles y después abrir sus propios negocios, ya que eso les da la estabilidad financiera y la experiencia que necesitan las personas para trabajar en su propio negocio. También lo que yo hice este verano fue hacer un poco de dinero vendiendo las cosas que yo hago regularmente con familiares o con los amigos de mis padres. And so now that I explained that in Spanish and then that we're done, we're gonna add the powdered sugar, which is 1 1/2 cups of powdered sugar.
So I know it's kind of stopped in regards to just like the general income, but the overall market size, for pastries or bakeries in general is about 11 billion. And is that nationally within the U.S. or is that worldwide?
I think that was just national.
Okay, so nationally. And so
Yeah.
obviously there's a lot of programs in, international places, learning about pastries or learning about different types of cuisines. In other countries is a possibility as well. Obviously you need to look at the different types of programs available to international students, figure out with COVID if you are even able to travel that far, the cost of tuition, the cost of living, like we were talking about when we compared the US and Mexico. And then also figure out if going international and learning one specialized type of cuisine is what you really want to do in the future. So the business, it looks about there's about 11,000 businesses overall within the U.S. And in regards to like industry employment, around 190,000 people are currently employed within the U.S. Is that specific just to pastries and bakeries, or is that including like chefs and kitchens as well?
This was just pastries.
So just pastries.
Just
okay.
pastries. There tends to be more, in America, there tends to be more restaurants and pastry shops, but it really depends on the country that you're in. I know in France you find a bakery in every corner. In here is pretty rare, but
Yeah.
we do have
There are a lot of coffee shops at least. Though.
Yes, we do have a lot of coffee shops, which is something that you might want to think of when you're wanting to go into pastry, like into the pastry business. Include something that you know that it's daily consumed, so that you
have a wide market,
yes,
a broad market too.
and that your customers are going constantly there for something, but might buy something extra.
Exactly.
Okay, so I'm mixing the eggs with the powdered sugar. And it does look kind of weird, but don't worry, it's normal. Entonces aquí ya metimos el azúcar glass junto con los huevos y lo estuvimos batiendo hasta que tenga esta consistencia. So this is what we want. It kind of doubled the size.
So how long does it take to get everything prepared and mixed, and then how long does it take to cook in the oven or bake in the oven?
So for baking, it's going to take about 14 minutes or 12 minutes, depending on how hot you get your oven. And then this should take more than 10 minutes, just because you got to melt the chocolate and let it cool. But other than that, it shouldn't take too long. Now I'm going to add the flour.
The flour.
And
you're just using like enriched white flour? Could
yes,
you
just
use
all-purpose flour.
All-purpose. Could you use like, brown flour? I know other people, or like wheat flour.
You can use rice flour or whole wheat flour.
Whole wheat flour.
But if you're using whole wheat, you might want to mix it with a little bit of white, just because your cakes might tend to be very, very tough at the end.
I see.
And they're supposed to be really soft cakes.
Okay, so.
But you
that's
can do
good.
half and half.
Oh, you could do half and half, depending on if you want it more soft or you want it more hard.
And then this is really easy to mix.
Yeah, and then you said in total, like all of these ingredients cost about $25.
$22, yes.
Yeah, $22, and we're using about half of the products, half of all of the products, so a cost of $10 in total to make 4 lava cakes.
Yes. So, and then you don't have to whisk it a lot. Just make sure there's no
No clumps or
clumps of
anything.
flour in there. And then this is pretty much the consistency that we want. There are some bubbles in there, but it's normal. And you do want to make sure that the chocolate is cool enough so you don't end up with scrambled eggs in here. And then, I forgot to do this, but this is the tins that I'm gonna use. And what we're gonna do is, we're just gonna grease them real quick with some oil.
And you're using vegetable oil, not like any kind of starch or cornstarch.
So I'm just using vegetable oil and a little bit of cocoa powder.
Okay.
And like I said, you don't want to use olive oil because then it's too strong and the flavors, it's kind of a weird tasting cake. So we just do that. And then just put about a tablespoon of the chocolate, move it around, get it all over. And then you do the same with the other one. Get chocolate all around. Después de que batimos los huevos, le añadimos la harina y el chocolate fundido y lo mezclamos por unos segundos hasta que obtuvimos esta consistencia. Y ahorita vamos a engrasar y enchocolatar nuestros moldes. Estamos usando aceite vegetal, pueden usar mantequilla o otro tipo de aceite, menos un aceite fuerte como el de oliva, ya que les dará un sabor muy fuerte a sus pasteles y no les va a agradar. So then when we're done greasing, all we have to do is divide this in 4. We might get more cakes, but who knows.
The more the merrier.
We don't have enough tins for it. So I'm just going to use this measuring cup here. So we just do that. And this is a 1/3 cup.
1/3 cup.
And I'm just going to do a little bit first and then divide all of it when we're done.
So I'll go ahead and just kind of list off the prices for all of the ingredients while you're doing everything. So people at home, if they're interested, they can kind of look at their finances and see if they're able to buy the ingredients and make lava cakes at home as well. Let me just find the slide real quick.
If you can find the kind of chocolate that I had, you can also do chocolate chips or just your regular chocolate from like the grocery store.
Okay.
Candy chocolate.
Like Hershey's or...
Yeah.
Okay, so your cocoa powder in total it cost you about $3, and that was for 8 ounces. You got 6 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate, which was about $3 and $3.50. 10 tablespoons of butter, so that took about $4. 6 eggs, about $2. 1.5 cups of so the powdered sugar was about $2. The flour was $2.30, and if you wanted to do extra powdered sugar, it would cost another $2, another bag of powdered sugar, basically. But that's the total price for the products individually. Obviously, you're not using the entire products; you're only using part of it, so it's not the entire cost.
You can do multiple times this. Okay, so we're gonna put this in the oven.
So you don't need to put anything on top of it or any plate underneath or anything.
No, you should be fine. And you want to do the middle rack.
In the middle.
You don't want to use the top because then they could burn.
So right there, she put it in the middle, not the top, and she's putting it, centering it, and then we're just gonna leave it for
12 minutes,
12 minutes.
and then
We'll check. Okay, so I guess now is the time to kind of clean up. Obviously, we want to make sure to sanitize everything, throw away any unwanted materials, and etc. So why don't we go ahead and start doing that? So, Brenda, is there any tips you have for future culinary students, or people who currently are in school and are maybe looking into business or finances, thinking about maybe studying in another country? What are some things that you would suggest for them based on your experience?
I think the first step that they must remember is that they should reach out to the schools themselves. Don't be discouraged when you go into their website and then see their prices. It can be really misleading, but I think it's very important that you get in contact with someone from the school and ask them more about the questions that you have. And also, right now things are kind of hard on how far you can go from your country, but it's not impossible, and there's always certain ways that you can do this. It might look hard, but there are many ways in which you can do it, and I guess it might seem like a really bad year, but it's not really. If you think about it, the less the students in the classroom, the more you get to learn, the more time that the chef has for you, and the more time that you have for yourself to really think about if this is what you want to do. And I'm just gonna clean this up, and then do you have any more questions?
Yeah, so I think today was a really great lesson on the various types of career paths that are available to people. Looking into culinary school and into becoming a chef in the future is a very legitimate career that a lot of people go into to make money, to do what they're passionate about, and to hopefully bring joy to other people by making really amazing pastries or really amazing food. So learning about that today, I hope that was very helpful for people today. And thank you so much for taking the time. We have another about 10ish minutes before the pastry will be done, but we'll kind of journey around here at Wasan, so we can kind of think about what we've learned today and the importance of education, the importance of being financially prepared for any type of education you want to get into. So I guess as Brenda is cleaning up, I guess we can kind of focus on the beginning of how we got into the programs we're in right now. So what got you passionate about cooking? Like, where did this desire to make food and provide food to other people, where did that start?
So I think it was back to when I was in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we're, I don't know if you had the same thing, but in our high school, we were supposed to take a class of either culinary skills, so
Yeah,
just like I don't remember what it was called, but I think it was foods one or two.
Yeah,
right?
food, yeah.
And then you either had that option or sewing, and of course I didn't want to do sewing and I wanted to eat, so I took the culinary class and I started learning to do the basic things, so muffins, cookies, and things like that. And it got me excited. And then I heard about this program that only sophomores, so 10th graders, could take, which is the Pastry program. And it was kind of bigger than just your foods class in high school. So in that program, we learned a lot about cooking at first, which I really hated. I hated the cooking. I didn't like making the sauces and the pastas and all that. But then the next half year, we learned about breads. We made 4 different types of breads. We made all different types of things like desserts and more cookies and things like that. And that really got me excited.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to go to that class all the time. And then the next year, my senior year, I took it again, and I decided that this is what I want to do. I told my parents, and they said, maybe it's just a hobby, so don't get too caught up on it.
Yeah.
Don't look into classes, just go to like university and get your degree there. Like you don't need to go into culinary school. And so I was kind of discouraged by my parents, and like as a tip of life, I think it's important that you follow the dreams that you have. It is your parents' opinion, it's important, but oftentimes in reality, you're the one who's going to be working, you're the one who's going to be spending time studying or reviewing for your exams. So you might as well do what you love.
Yeah.
And then I think we had this same conversation once in one of our classes. And then there's two different types of people who either agree or disagree, but it's your life, so really do what you want. And for me, starting now at culinary school at my age is exciting, and then kind of I think back and I think to myself that I could have gone sooner, and maybe right now I could have been into my bread program or specialize in breads, which is what I like.
Yeah. Just randomly, have you ever been to like Advent Kitchen?
Uh,
I think we went there once to get like lamb.
oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so if you ever come to Utah, both me and Brenda highly recommend going to Afghan Kitchen. One of the best places to get Afghan food in Utah.
It was actually my first time having it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. It was really good, and the serving was pretty big, which I really like.
So anyways, thank you so much, Brenda, for taking the time today to go over everything. We do have limited time with the live feed video, so